Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome again to this course, Indonesian Foreign Policy. And today I will discuss about Indonesian foreign policy under Megawati Soekarno Putri, or the third Indonesian president. The fourth Indonesian president. Alright. Indonesian foreign policy during Megawati Soekarno Putri. This was influenced by two factors, international factors and domestic factors. And we will discuss also about the related issues surrounding Megawati Soekarno Putri administration. Once Megawati became Indonesian president in 2001, a week later, this is a very tragic tragedy in New York, where 9/11 outbreak in the city of New York and Pentagon, and start with that day, a U.S. Government launching what we call as a global war on terror, and this policy is actually targeted on Osama bin Laden and such a terrorist group. And this has become complicated, where the groups called as Al Qaeda uh, we tend to be assimilated with Islamic jihad or Islamic values. So in Islamic countries like Indonesia, this has become in some extent became controversial, because Islam is blaming to be horrific religion, and this is indicated Islam teaching war and jihad as the main values. Even this is already opposed by Islamic scholars. But in that way, that Islam and jihad is called to be in line in such a terrorist campaign. This situation is always influenced to the spread of the world, such as in Indonesia. And soon after 9/11, a year later, the Bali bombing occurred in Bali, and began that day. Also, Indonesia also launching war on terror. The similarities is that once 9/11 outbreak in New York, the U.S. policy began to be assertive and aggressively campaigning war on terror. And U.S. policy also push many countries, including Indonesia, to follow a global war on terror. And Megawati, as the leader from Muslim populous country, this is quite pressure, because domestically this is controversial, but because of the international pressure, Megawati should follow the pressure from international. And once Bali bombing occurred in Bali in 2002, Megawati also launching war on terror. And because of the war on terror policy under Megawati Soekarno Putri, Indonesia got some military assistance from especially US and Australia. where the citizens became victim in Bali to create what we call as uh, anti-terrorism or counter-terrorism unit under Indonesian police. And unfortunately, because of the actors behind Bali bombing is a Muslim, this is a quite uh, influence among people discourse that Islam in some extent teaching jihad, teaching suicide bombing, even many peaceful uh, values also teaching in Islam. But because of the Bali bombing, the image of Islam seriously declined. All right, this is actually what occurred in international and domestic. This is the reflection of the Samuel Huntington's thesis on the clash of civilization, because he said that after the end of the Cold War, U.S. foreign policy tends to be uh, unilateral. And why is this is happen in U.S. foreign policy is because U.S. is the only superpower, and because of the collapse of Soviet Union, so the Cold War ended, and there are no Cold War anymore. So the war later is between not between U.S. and the enemy, but between civilization. In some scholars also argues that this is not war between civilization, but between U.S. and such countries or such culture or such nations, because under clash of civilization project many violence occurred on behalf of counterterrorism. First of all, in Iraq, of course. And why George W. Bush attacked Iraq is because Iraq claimed to be a Satan state or evil state. And why uh, they call evil state? Because uh, the states like Iraq and Afghanistan also hugely influenced by terrorist groups such as Al Qaeda and Taliban. Okay, the war on terror finally create terrorists, and of course this is make money. And do you know that once a US policy declared war on terror to the Middle East, US foreign policy got huge money under this terrorism project. So this project actually creates money, because war on terror is uh, need huge money in the or during operational, like war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, war in North Africa. Under uh, this project, what they call as global jihadism, is as a fuel towards this policy. So this is like the anecdotes that war is business, because war in some extent creates because to create money or to create advantages. Okay, in Indonesia, in Indonesian context also the same, because once Indonesia got Bali bombing, and declared that Indonesia also war on terror, Indonesia got around 200 million, mainly from the US and Australia, in order to counter terrorism. And the creation of Densus 88 is the evidence that this kind of terrorism project is actually for political interest or even business interest. This is the data shown that uh, under this war on terror war on terror project, Indonesian government received a huge money from abroad. Okay, beside terrorism issues around in Megawati administration, there are many issues on Indonesian foreign policy. One is the loss of Indonesia on Sipadan and Likitan Islands. This is in Sulawesi Sea, close to Sabah state in Malaysia. Indonesia at the time lost two islands because both countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, already discussed it, but failed to make agreement. And finally, both sides agreed to bring this case to International Court of Justice in the Hague in the Netherlands. And finally, the judge decided that Sipadan and Likitan belong to Malaysia. And also under Megawati Soekarno Putri, the Aceh conflicts also became international spotlights because Megawati re-implementing martial law or daerah operasi militer. This is make Aceh become military operation under Indonesian armed forces and the police. And also human rights cases also under international attention, especially Munir cases, and also uh, some conflicts between Indonesian army and the police because of the separation between police and army and Indonesian armed forces, and also some cases in Papua, and of course uh, the implementation of martial law in Aceh. This is some issues surrounding Indonesian foreign policy under Megawati Soekarno Putri. But she also make achievement where this is ASEAN India Summit, and during the summit, the burn of Bali conquered. This is one of the principles or agreement in ASEAN that became a milestone for ASEAN Economic Community held in Bali. This is under Megawati Soekarno Putri. All right, this is our presentation. This topic. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any question, please write down in comments, and I will try to answer your question. Thank you so much for your attention again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.